Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now August 23rd of 2020, and ever since the very end of the Skywalker saga, a lot of fans have been very skeptical about the future of the Star Wars franchise by Disney, Lucasfilm, Bob Iger and Bob Chapek, and more, and exactly what it's going to look like in the next couple of years. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, the one thing about Disney Star Wars is that, yes, we do know that both Disney and Lucasfilm are trying their absolute best to really bring Star Wars to the same exact level as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Essentially, what they really want to do is that they really want to bring it to the same level of success in as early as possible, within 3 to 5 years, give or take, primarily focusing on Disney Plus, and then, of course, the theatrical releases, like the 4th Star Wars trilogy, also known as the new Star Wars trilogy, and other spin-offs out there that are currently in the early development phase. Now, given that Kathleen Kennedy has little to no involvement over the creative process of these new shows and these movies, it really does tell the fans that a lot of good is coming out of Star Wars now, with George, John, and Dave working together as a team to really do everything in their power to really bring Star Wars back to the way it was pre-Disney. We're talking about back in 2011 or 2010, where we didn't even know anything was happening by, of course, Disney and Kathleen Kennedy over at Lucasfilm to take over Star Wars. You know, little did Star Wars fans know that Star Wars would be coming back in 2015. Now, here we are in a scenario where the new universe is really going to differ from the old expanded universe that we got back in the 1990s and the early 2000s. Now, everything that has been done by Disney is still considered a part, or is still actually, said to be a part of this new universe that's being built. It's just that this new phase of the new Star Wars universe is going to be handled properly. It's going to be handled in a more respectful manner by the creators. So, of course, now that both Disney and Lucasfilm are finished with The Rise of Skywalker, they are currently focused on their new Star Wars trilogy of movies, as well as their new Star Wars universe, where it's explained that as of right now, Bob Iger and Bob Chapek are developing multiple plans in order to reunite the Star Wars fans around the world to create a brighter future for the franchise. Given that George Lucas, Jon Favreau, and Dave Filoni are now involved with the new universe, behind the scenes it's described that George Lucas has great regret over what he did to the Star Wars franchise, starting with the prequels, and that he regrets making some of the major mistakes he made with The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, and how that led to criticism, and the criticism left Lucas into burnout mode of not making further movies and focusing on himself and handing everything over to Disney. Lucas is described to actually be very sorry for the fans of how he allowed Kathleen Kennedy to take control of the franchise and completely alter the Skywalker saga, and that Lucas is doing everything in his power in order to make things up to the Star Wars fandom. This is Lucas's way of saving the franchise by bringing back Star Wars legends and even introducing original concepts that he never got to explore before handing Star Wars over to Disney. So keep in mind that a lot of abandoned Star Wars Legends material is going to be a part of the new Disney canon. Now, it's described that Lucas is taking careful steps to fixing the franchise by hiring the right creatives to come on board and take control of the franchise. Lucas additionally is sorry over the fact that he gave the okay for Kathleen Kennedy to have the power to choose certain directors and writers for the sequel trilogy before he would even be informed at that, and that this led to a large backlash over Star Wars Episode 8 at the time in 2017 with Rian Johnson. Not just that, but Lucas did not attend the premiere for Episode 9 primarily because of the creative issues he has with Kathleen Kennedy and the struggling connection that they have over at Lucasfilm. Lucas also regrets and is sorry for not attending the premiere for The Rise of Skywalker and plans to make his way to future premieres of new films that they will be more in line with in his vision of Star Wars and what the philosophy of Star Wars should be. Bob Iger and Chapek are still working closely with Lucas in order to bring Star Wars into a better direction with the series of TV shows and movies to be released in the near future that will take the fans into a brand new mythology that they have never witnessed, and that Lucas is going above and beyond to evolve the Star Wars franchise in the right way for the fans to enjoy. Now, Dave Filoni is described to be making many of the creative choices for some of the major TV shows, alongside Jon Favreau with Lucas by their side, to really bring the Star Wars universe to the same level of success as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Lucas is actually, of course, and actually does believe that Star Wars can reach a potential that it never has reached before, and is aiming for that goal for the first batch of years throughout this decade of the 2020s. So here's the thing about Star Wars, is that what they really want to do is that they really want to take advantage of everything that they have right now, all the resources, right? Now that Kathleen Kennedy is completely, not in charge on a creative scale for the most part. She's only involved with the Leslie Headland Star Wars TV series, mind you, and that's it. George Lucas, however, is going to be working closely with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and others on board over at Lucasfilm to really steer Star Wars in the right direction. Now, one thing I will say is that I feel that George should not be sorry or regretful over his decision of hiring Kathleen Kennedy. And there's a reason to this, is because, well, at the time back in 2012, Lucas was promised by Kennedy that she was going to respect those characters, that she was going to take care of Star Wars. She gave him a promise, and little did Lucas know that she did a complete 180, so it really wasn't Lucas's fault. He trusted Kathleen Kennedy. He knew that she was affiliated with many different movies out there, many different franchises. I mean, Back to the Future, of all things, to say, just as an example there. So that obviously, kind of altered, I guess, his judgment, looking at Kathleen Kennedy, of how she had this expansive past in the film industry, and how he trusted her. But little did he know that she had an actual agenda, that Kathleen Kennedy, at the end of the day, really wanted to do her own thing with Star Wars, and that really was really wrong of her, to say the least. I mean, I don't know how anybody could really do that. You can see the interview up there from, what was it, 2013 or something like that, maybe 2014, where they're sitting at the table and Kennedy's talking about the new era of Star Wars with the sequels and other movies and stuff. And she even states that she's going to respect those characters. And George is just sitting there, obviously trusting her. So we can't necessarily blame Lucas 100% for choosing Kennedy, because what did he really have to know at the time, right? Now, sure, one could argue or debate that Lucas should have just got his act together and picked up on the movies and done them himself. And he could have done that, absolutely. But you gotta remember that he got a lot of criticism with the prequels. He got a lot of negative reviews with the prequel trilogy, and that can really take a toll on one's mind and capability of writing other material. It's one of the major reasons as to why we haven't really seen George Lucas write anything related to Star Wars in a very, very long time, and let alone anything else for the most part, But when we look at George Lucas, obviously he went through a lot with the prequel trilogy. I will say that Revenge of the Sith was the stronger point of the three films. The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones had their weaknesses big time, but it did have its moments. It had its strong moments, right? Let's not forget about Darth Maul and Dooku, right? So, when we look at everything related to the future here, alright, this, I think, does spell a light at the end of the tunnel, given that Kathleen Kennedy no longer is involved on a creative scale. I do feel bad for Lucas, having these regrets and being sorry for the fans of A, handing everything over to Kennedy, B, letting Kathleen Kennedy have the power to choose specific writers and directors without him knowing at first, and C, of course, these different scenarios that really led him to essentially, come back in a sense, is that he actually really allowed Kathleen Kennedy to do as she pleased with the creative decisions. He had given her that power. That was basically in the contract, that she could interfere with that. But it seems like that Kennedy went way too overboard, past her limits of what she was allowed to do, right? We saw what she did with The Rise of Skywalker. We saw of what she did with The Last Jedi, and essentially what she did with the new Star Wars trilogy. Why Benioff and Weiss left. Obviously, they also had creative differences with Kennedy. They wanted to focus more so on Netflix. I mean, the list goes on. So, like I've said before in the past, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.